the pricing part of it. Right. One is from the science or the mathematical part of it itself. One should really be aware of the input costs, right? Many a times we know that we apply a standard rate card, right? And even the rate cards have a lot of inputs and science behind them of how the rate cards are really constructed, or we apply a flat rate across some of the services that are provisioned. And obviously, I'm biased towards the IT.
To the point, like we see two broad-based approaches towards pricing. One is a cost-plus approach, and another is a value-based pricing approach. Okay, and typically, as I hear you both say, everyone is now preferring to go for the value-based approach. Okay, value-based pricing approach, because that's the only where you can bring out your differentiators, you can demand for your premium. Okay, because in the cost plus you can't demand your premium, because everybody is there. You are looking for the market share, but you are losing on your margins. Okay, as value based, here you can not only increase your margins, but you can also increase your like what Amol said, you can also increase your market share. So obviously, value-based pricing is a preferred model of pricing for the industry. And when you are creating that pricing is on your in your RFP is not only the number which you quote in your pricing sheet. It is also your proposal in which you actually communicate the value of your pricing, because pricing as a number is not does not make a difference, because then it's not going to make a difference unless the price is quoted with a price is delivered with a value which it brings to the client. And who is the best person to communicate that value to the client? It's definitely the team which works on the bid and the proposal. And if this team which works on the bid and the proposal is kept away from pricing, or does not have that pricing acumen, or does not have a pricing skill, do you think they are going to be valuable for the organization? Do you think they will be able to grow within the organization? Do you think they will be able to take the next leap within the organization? Ashish, I want your inputs on that, and Amol, you also your inputs. And how do you see this within your industry?
Sure. So, Abhijit, great question, because the definition of the account team needs to include definitely the bid and the proposal management team, who is really working on the response itself and trying to understand the bridge between the solution and the client requirements, right? Because that's the only team who really goes across the entire spectrum, right, of what the supplier provides as well as what the client really needs, right? Other roles that, if you look at it, either manage the client side of the world or manage the internal supply side of the world, right? So it's the bid and proposal community who really cuts across, and definitely they should be involved in the entire pricing mechanism itself. One is, and Abhijit, we have had a separate discussion on this on executive summary and how to convey the value, etc., but not digressing the point. One really has to bring out that value in the proposal itself, as you rightly mentioned, and this really needs to be brought about by our bid and proposal management team. As we said, many of us come in from a background of usually an MBA, right? But at the same point of time, we also discussed the difference between understanding pricing and the pricing acumen itself, right? And how do you convert that into a value-based approach? What we are seeing, Abhijit, is that many of these roles are collapsing, right? If we are just staying true to being a bid manager itself and not really venturing out into the proposal world, not venturing out into the pricing world, not venturing out in the solution world, we'll be like a frog in the well kind of a scenario where we would lose our relevance in some point of time, if not already, right? We have to expand our mechanism to build what we potentially will call the pipeline, right? Because sales is basically building the supply pipeline itself, demand pipeline itself, right? So the bid and proposal managers definitely will need to enhance their acumen on the pricing part itself, they usually are concerned with just 2 or 3 headline figures around the pricing mechanism itself, right? For example, what is the margin, right? Or what is the rate card that is being proposed? Okay, but they have to look much more beyond it and understand how those numbers are developed, as we were talking about the input costs as well. Many a times people do not know their cost of sales. Many a time people do not know what contributes towards the difference between sold margin and delivered margin, right? So unless people, especially in the bid management area, understand these concepts, right, the supplier will always be on a back foot of providing just what is adequate for a proposal. And at this point of time, adequate does not cut it, right? With adequate, one will not really win a deal. The second aspect associated with it is something around innovative cost models, right? People have to, we discussed around a minute back around cost plus and value based models, but the entire packaging is also the important part or the aspect of it. We also touched upon the fact that people are moving from capex to opex, and that is the primary reason why cloud has exploded to such a great extent, right? Because that's the primary advantage of a cloud, apart from everything else that the different hyperscalers sell. We have to look at how much is the supplier involved in the game, how much is the supplier being a partner to the client itself. Is there some risk reward kind of a model that they are creating? Is there, this is exactly what Amol was also saying, right? I believe even in tendering and building contracts, there is a risk reward model, right? If you do not supply your deliverables within a given period of time, there is a penalty, right? That's risk reward, isn't it? So unless these innovative costing models where the client believes that you have a skin in the game, you understand the entire mechanism, just keeping it adequate will not cut it.
I think great inputs, Ashish. Amol, how do you see it from your industry level?
Yeah,
your industry?
I think what I would say is, see, pricing is, I think, the most important task, which is actually determining whether you win or lose the job, right? So for a business development or bids and proposal perspective, it is, I would say, the most important part. And it also determines whether you are in a competitive range. It also, finally, once you win, it will also be actually determining whether you will be able to deliver a quality job without any erosion of your gross margin, right? So how a person will, or how any individual working in a business development will be able to kind of build up this pricing acumen, or instead of how, whether the person involved in the business development role should have this pricing. I will say absolutely yes. Okay, and in this current scenario, I would expect the management, the top management, to say that, boss, I don't want you only to be doing a proposal coordination job. I want you to be handling multiple roles, and I'm sensing that pricing, having a pricing acumen, doing something related to pricing is going to be one of the most important part. I'll go to some basics to explain it. If you are a salesperson or a business development person, right, you still need to have an understanding of the pricing, because you are really going to bring to the table what is going to be the ballpark pricing, right? What is going to be the ballpark fees that this particular opportunity or a deal is going to have. When you move on and when you develop an initial pricing, this is where the proposal coordinators or the business development persons, the capture managers, the technical leads, all these get on to what we call as the content review, content plan review, right? So during that, when we are talking about pricing and then you are in a team, you cannot just ignore the fact that I'm not responsible for pricing, so I don't know anything. I don't think it will be tolerated hence onwards. And then moving onwards, you will obviously, when you move on to the other reviews, it will be an important part for everyone to understand the nitty-gritties of pricing. I won't say that a person need to be an expert in pricing, but you should be able to understand the small metrics, the financial metrics, and how actually they are like dependent and how they affect the overall performance of the company, right? So I would say this acumen needs to be developed by everyone. You have to, a singular role will not solve the purpose hence onwards, because we are, as we are all seeing, we are not in a very good times, right? So an individual who is aspiring to have a bids and proposal role, or who wants to kind of move on to a next role, cannot shy away and run away from acquiring the pricing acumen.